Hey guys, back with another video. So, in my last video, I mentioned that Fangraphs came out with their Yankees prospect list. Every year they do a breakdown of each team's prospects in addition to a top 100 or so prospect list. And, I like the approach that the prospect analysts at Fangraphs right now are taking. I mean, right now it's only Eric Longenhagen, but prior to this, it was him and Kylie McDaniel, who is now has taken over for Keith Law at ESPN. So that's going to be interesting because I really like what Kylie does, so it'll be interesting now that I wasn't too big on Keith Law's prospect lists. So before we get into that, like the video below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and give me your thoughts on the list. What do you think? Do you agree with the list? Are there any players missing? So let's get into it. So the Yankees have a ridiculous 54 players on the list. I mean, out of the lists that have come out so far, I'm pretty sure they're running away with it. I don't recall any other list coming close to 54. The only list I can think of that's gonna catch up is when the San Diego Padres list come out. I'm just looking at the Braves had 27. Let's see, I think Minnesota 42. So yeah, I think Minnesota is the second place, for the deepest farm system. I mean, it's just crazy how the Yankees are pumping in talent to their farm system. And not just like filler, it's like legitimate talent. So, first off, I'll read down, or how should I go about this? Because, all right, I will. So I'm gonna go down the first 12 players first, because the first 12 players are all graded a 45 future value and above. So the scouting scale in baseball is a 20 to 80 scale. So 50 is average, and 60, 40 is one standard deviation, 30, 70 is two standard deviations. So, it's 50 is like an average player that you see playing in base, on a major league team right now. So let's kick it off, because while the Yankees don't have anyone that is a really top prospect right now, because, they had guys like Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez and Gleyber Torres in recent years, but they've all graduated. And usually when guys like that graduate, the teams take a pretty big hit in their farm system. They don't usually have, especially because those guys graduated all at relatively the same time. So usually teams don't have like multiple top prospects. So right now the Yankees have one player with a future grade of a 55, which would be a slightly above average player. And that is Davy Garcia. Now he is a right-handed pitcher. He's going to be 21, so it's March 21 in 4 months. So, April, May, June, July. So July. So midsummer, he'll be 21. And since he's already in AAA, he could really start this season at some point. Maybe most likely a September call-up, but given the fact that the Yankees have had a ton of injuries to their starting rotation already, he might, if he performs well, he could be a mid-season call-up. And, who knows? I mean, the way he's graded right now, well, let's just run down the list first. So we have Davy Garcia, number 1, Jason Dominguez at number 2, who is a 17-year-old who they actually just signed this summer from, I believe, the Dominican. Kevin Alcantara, Ezekiel Duran, Alexander Vargas, Clark Schmidt, Luis Medina, Estevan Florial, Oswald Peraza, Luis Gil, Miguel Yajare, and Anthony Volpe. So, as you can see, the Yankees do a lot of their prospect mining in Latin America. The Yankees are typically one of the better teams in the league, so they're usually picking at the end of the first round. And by then, the elite talent is already gone. And they're, your top 100 right away prospects are gone. And, you're just not going to, especially now that there's a slotting system. So, let's go down to the grades. So we have Davy Garcia, who has a 55 fastball right now, a 50 slider, a 70 curveball, a 45 changeup, and 40 command. So he has a little work to do because his future grades are he could possibly have a 55 slider, a 50 changeup, and 50 command. So he's got a little work to do, but like I said, if he comes out of the gate and he's playing really well at AAA, I could see a mid-season call-up if, I could see him being the number 1 call-up if something goes wrong. So, and he sits 91 to 95 and tops out at 97. So, one of the things I'd be worried about is that if currently he has a 40 command and he's already in AAA, it's going to take a lot of work to get him to 50 command. So I'd be worried that, maybe he's not going to be, right, 55 grades usually means like mid to, he's not going to be an ace most likely. But, who knows? Uh, yeah, we'll see. I really don't know. It depends. It all depends on what they do and how they handle him. The curveball is his one big, gigantic pitch. So I think, if he can't stick in the rotation, he could be a top reliever in the game. Because, really, you really only need 2 pitches as a reliever. And, that one pitch, if you have a dominant pitch like he does, anything can happen. So next up, this is the guy I'm really interested in seeing or seeing what he can do. I'm not going to see him for a long time. But Jason Dominguez, who they picked up in July, he was an international free agent. He's 17. He turned 17 last month. So he was, but he's already a 50 future value. So that means, for an international prospect to be a 50 future value at 16, now 17, but, he didn't play yet. Those guys don't play. But, so these are the grades he has, the future grades. So he has a 55 hit, 65 raw power, 60 game power, 70 run, 55 fielding, and 60 throw. So this guy could be a legitimate 5-tool player. Above average across the board, plus speed, plus power. A plus throwing arm, an above average fielder, an above average hitter. This guy could be one of the top outfielders in the game. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. So actually there's in the paragraph that was written up in Fangraph for the article, it says, there's as much industry intrigue surrounding Dominguez as there is interest in a Yankee-obsessed public because so few scouts have seen him at all. And even fewer have seen him against live pitching. One director told me, Dominguez is impossible to evaluate for a list like this, while a former GM told me he was too low. The Yankees spent almost all but $300,000 of their initial $5.4 million international pool on Dominguez. He is a hyper-sculpted, switch-hitting athlete who could fit at a number of defensive positions, probably either second base or center field. He has plus tools across the board, including power from both sides of the plate. Dominguez has also largely been seen in workouts and not against live high-quality pitching. So we don't know how much about his feel to hit. We don't know much about his feel to hit, but the swing elements are there. There's perhaps some Mike Mamula risk here, and Dominguez is physically mature for a recent J2. But I don't know of another 16-year-old on the planet with tools this slab, and struggle to think of a historical example. So, I mean, this is about as good an international prospect as you can get. And, I expect the Yankees maybe to be a little aggressive with him just because he is that good. So usually with these types of top international signings, they move them stateside right away. Most of the players play in like the Dominican Summer League and that stuff. But I expect Jason Dominguez to play in Tampa for the Rookie League. And the Gulf Coast State League, I think it's called. But we'll see. I'm really excited about him. I mean, his estimated time of arrival is 2025, so that's a long time away, but who knows? I mean, if that's, that seems like a really long time for even, if he was like, it's not uncommon for guys to go through, if he takes 2 years to go through rookie and all the single A levels, and then a year to go through double A and a year to go through triple A, that's 4 years. So 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. So 2024. So a year earlier. I mean, I guess 2025 is conservative, but I don't know. I'm really excited about him. Then we have number 3, Kevin Alcantara. Now, this is another guy who's really exciting. Like as a Yankee fan, I'm really excited for him. He's a 50 future value. He's 5 months older than Jason Dominguez. He was actually signed in 2018, so the previous year. He was just younger. I guess Jason was on the older end of maybe Kevin, because sometimes guys turn 16 like in October and then they sign. I don't remember exactly when he signed. But so Alcantara has a future 50 hit, 60 raw power, 55 game power, and 55 run. 55 fielding and 55 throw. So while he's not quite as good as Dominguez, he's also shown. He's also, yeah, he's played a year where Jason Dominguez hasn't played yet because international signees don't play the year that they sign. They get signed for the following year. So this is just his write-up. Athletic 6'6" outfielders who can rotate like Alcantara are rare. And this young man might grow into elite power at maturity. He is loose and fluid in the box, but does have some swing and miss issues. Though it's not because level length is causing him to be late, it's more of a barrel accuracy issue right now. This is one of the higher ceiling teenagers in the minors, but of course Alcantara might either take forever to develop or never develop at all. So an interesting note is Eric Longenhagen had a chat today on Fangraphs, or I think Friday. So he had a chat, and someone asked him in the chat, because one of the top up-and-coming prospects right now is Christian Robinson in the Arizona Diamondbacks farm system. And Christian Robinson kind of is the same kind of guy. I think he signed in 2017. And as an international free agent. And again, he sort of was hyped as a prospect. And then all of a sudden last year, he just broke out. And now he's a top 30 prospect, I think. So someone in the chat asked Eric if Kevin Alcantara could take a similar path as Christian Robinson. And he said, but he basically said yes. So if that's the case, and Alcantara can grow into, I mean, he's 6'5". He's listed as 6'5", 175 pounds. So he's really skinny. If he can add like 25 pounds of muscle, that 60 raw power could be a 70 raw power. And then if he can make those swing adjustments, his hit tool could go up to like 55 or 60. And maybe he even gets to more of his raw power in games. I mean, there's no telling. And a future outfield of Alcantara and Dominguez, that could be scary. So then we have the number 4 prospect is Ezekiel Duran. So Ezekiel Duran's a second baseman. He is 5'11", 185. So last year, he was Eric and Kylie had been hinting that the Yankees had a player who could be could take a Wander Franco type jump. And while he didn't do that really, he, he sort of made a name for himself this season. So, we have right now, the one question, he hits for power. He doesn't have speed, but, the one question would be is if he can work on his hit tool, because his hit tool's a 40. And, it's kind of trying to see as he continues. So that's really kind of what he has to work on and iron out, because if he can get his hit tool even to a 45 and not strike out and a ton with his power, you don't need to be that fast, so if he may not hit triples, but he could be a doubles machine and then hit home runs. So, and he's another 50 future value player. So, see, like the Yankees have. So then, next one is Alexander Vargas. So he's a shortstop in the Yankee system. Another 50 future value player. He's 18. 55 hit tool. 50 raw power, 40 game power, 60 speed. So, maybe he can get to his game power. He's also 6 feet, 150 pounds. So, at 18, being that, what you have to remember is these guys who come from Latin America, a lot of times they're very skinny because they're not, they sort of eat whatever. They don't. There's no nutritional regimen, weight training, that kind of stuff. They're not really. So usually, once these guys get onto a team, that's when they start to really take off. Add on some muscle, and so we'll see. But, even if he doesn't get a lot of power, even if he doesn't add that much more power, if he can hit 10 home runs, 10, 15 home runs, if he can hit like 290 and be a threat on the base paths, that's a really good shortstop. And he's an excellent fielder. He has 60 future value in fielding and 55 throwing arm. So, he could definitely stay at shortstop as long as he doesn't get too big. Sometimes that happens, especially with teenagers. You never know how much they'll grow. But I think it's pretty safe that he's not going to grow too much. He's 6 foot, so he's not going to grow to be like 6'7". So I think even if he adds another 3 inches, that's still a really, as long as he's not like doesn't gain a ton of weight, I think he should be fine. But he's another one that I'm excited about. Maybe he could help in a couple of years. Or, who knows? The Yankees always need, in order to, the other thing is, in order to get top players in trades, you need top prospects. So while some of these guys could help, the big league team, some of these guys can also help on the trade market, because the Yankees also have a very young shortstop right now, a very young top shortstop right now in Gleyber Torres. So I don't know, I mean, the whole thing about the prospect game is you can't really tell what's going to happen. So then at number 6, we have Clark Schmidt. So Clark Schmidt's rated as a 45 plus future prospect. So that usually means that he could very easily, if he starts off the season and he's throwing well, he'll be pushed up to a 50 future value prospect. And while he doesn't have, his best pitch is the slider, and it's rated as a future value of 60. So he's not like he doesn't have a blow you away pitch, but he throws, all his pitches are average or above. His command is 50, so he's not gonna walk a ton of guys. He sits 91 to 95 and hits 96. So he throws, not super hard, but he's not throwing fastballs in the upper 80s. So he could be a useful starter. Who knows? He's also 24, so he's probably not going to add a ton of, probably what you see is what you get. But you always need extra guys that can be like back end types and stuff. So who knows? So then we have Luis Medina, who is a 45 future value prospect. He's a right-handed pitcher. He is 6'1", weighs 175 pounds. He's going to be 21 midsummer. He's got 2 really good pitches. He's got a future value 70 fastball and a future value 70 changeup. Right now, his fastball's a 65 and his curveball's a 60. So they're already plus pitches, but they could be plus pitches. His changeup has a future value of a 55. And the one thing is his command has a future value of a 45, so kind of below average. But he sits between 94 and 98, tops out at 100. So usually with these types of pitchers is you could either do one thing. Keep them throwing this hard and let him pitch in the bullpen, high leverage reliever, or you can taper back the speed on his pitches, on his fastball, and try and gain some command. Sacrifice speed for command. And I mean, listen, you could do either one. I don't know. I mean, he's still young, so see how it plays out. So I don't know. But I mean, and with his curveball, with his fastball and curveball the way they are, his changeup doesn't need to be more than like an average or an above average pitch to be a really good starter. So he could, if he can get his command up a little, he could be a top of the rotation starter. I mean, just on those two pitches and sort of use his changeup as like a, full them pitch, kind of like a, catch him off guard, that type of thing. So then at number 8, we have Esteban Florial, who, this is a guy, I think last year he was the number 1 prospect in the Yankees system. So this is a guy who, he was being touted as the next Yankees top prospect after, everyone graduated. Clint Frazier graduated, Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez, Gleyber Torres, Miguel Andujar, all of those guys graduated from the farm system. Jonathan Loai Saiga, Jordan Montgomery, they all graduated, so he was viewed as the next top prospect. And since then, he's kind of taken a step back. There were always some questions with him, and one of the questions was whether he would hit enough to warrant being the top prospect. And so really the answer is that maybe not. But, his tools, he has 60 raw power. So, and 55 game power, future value. So if he can get there, and he also has 70 speed, and he also has an 80 arm. So, he could, I mean, you'd like to see him get his hit tool up a little, but, he could still be a really good player who hits like 240, but just when he gets on base, just all bets are off. So, we'll see. He's 22, so I think he was in Double-A last season. High A. So it says he was in High A. So, he'll probably start in Double-A this year. Yeah, he played 140 games at High A. So he'll probably start at Double-A this year. And then we'll see what he does. I mean, Double-A is sort of the level where you start paying attention to statistics a little more because your guys are playing against better competition at that point. So we'll see. Then we have Oswald Peraza. He's a shortstop. He's 19. He's going to be 20 in August. So, again, really young. I mean, a lot of these guys you can see are really young players. He was signed as an international free agent in 2016. And I mean, he's a 45 future value player. He's more of a hit speed kind of guy. You know, he has a 60 future value hit and a 60 future value speed. I mean, current and future, you know. Usually speed's consistent. You know, your speed's your speed. That doesn't change unless, like, something happens, if you get injured or something like that. But he doesn't really have power. I mean, he has 45 power, 45 raw power. So, and his future value on game power is also 45. But, you know, that remains to be seen, I guess. But, you know, even if his power stays at a 45, you know, he's 6 foot, 176 pounds, so it's not like he's rail thin or anything. It's, you know, he could maybe add a few pounds of muscle, but he doesn't need to. He hits, if he can get up to a 60 hit and he stays at a 60 speed, you know, that's a really good player. You know, if he can hit 15 home runs, you know, maybe be a Brett Gardner type, you know, with a little more hit tool, a better Brett Gardner, you know, I don't know. So number 10, we have Luis Gill. He's another guy who I think he's probably destined for the bullpen. He is a right-handed pitcher, 6'3", 175 pounds. He's a 70 fastball, a 60 slider, 50 changeup, but only a 40 command. So he's going to walk a lot of guys. Probably not going to get average command. And he's also on the 40-man roster. So, yeah, because he was signed in 2014, he had to be added to the 40-man roster, I think this year or last year maybe. And basically that means like his clock starts, like his options. So, you know, usually once a team has to put a player on the 40-man roster, they sort of make up their mind what they want to do with him. So he's probably a reliever at this point, which, like I said, he could be a really good reliever. Sort of maybe a Dylan Betances type. Who knows? But he sits 93 to 97, hits 99. So yeah, I mean, got a dominant fastball, a really good slider. You know, maybe he could work on his changeup a little, get it a little more, but out of the bullpen, you really only need 2 pitches. So then next up for number 11, we have Miguel Yajure, who has a 55 fastball future value, 50 changeup, 55 or 50 curveball, 55 changeup, 60 cutter, and 60 command. So he's another one. He's going to be 22 mid-season. And so he sits between 91 and 95, tops out at 97. So again, he could be a mid-rotation type arm. We'll see. You know, maybe because he also, so he rehabbed from Tommy John in 2017. So you would think like 2018 and 2019, he was sort of, sometimes it takes guys, especially young guys, a little time to, get up to full strength. And so it'll be interesting to see if he could take that next step. So, we'll see. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. So then at number 12, to round out the 45 future value and above prospects is Anthony Volpe, who is a shortstop who was drafted in the first round of the 2019 draft. Actually, he's a hometown kid, sort of. He's from Delbarton High School in New Jersey. And he's going to be 19 in 3 months. So, we'll see. He's got a 55 future hit tool, 45 raw power, 40 game power, 50 run. So, I mean, judging by who the Yankees have ahead of him, he's kind of buried, maybe, but, in baseball, you never know. That's one of the things about baseball is you can never have too many players at one position because it always ends up working out in the end. And it's sort of, you don't really have to worry about it until like they're at AA and AAA. Then you can start debating. And the other thing is, not everyone sticks at shortstop. A lot of these guys end up moving to second or third base. And who knows? That's the thing. You never really know. So next up, so I think from now on, I'm just gonna read down the list and give like a highlight or two. So next at 13, he's a 40 plus. So like 45 plus, that means like with if he plays really well to start the season, he'll move up to a 45. So Albert Abreu, who was acquired from Houston in the the Brian McCann deal. That's where they got him from. So he's, when he came to the Yankees, he was thought to be like a steal, a top prospect type arm who could be, a mid-rotation starter. Now it's looking maybe more like he's going to be a reliever, which is kind of a waste because he has 4+ pitches. He has a 65 fastball, a 60 slider, a 60 curveball, and a 60 changeup. And he throws 95. He sits 95 to 99 and tops out at 101. But he has a 40 command. So, I mean, that's, actually the last line says, he'd be a 45 future value if not for the multi-year injury history. So that's the other thing. And a lot of times when pitchers have injury troubles, a move to the bullpen sort of alleviates that injuries, the rash of injuries. So it may be the best thing. And if he has 4+ pitches, he could be a beast of a reliever. Just no one can hit him because, in a short 1 inning, he could be a Chad Green type that, could either dominate for 1 inning, come in, dominate for 1 inning, or pitch for 3 innings. So we'll see. Then we have Anthony Cavallo, center fielder. Another one who's got an above average hit tool, above average draw power, average game power, plus speed. So yeah, center fielder, 19. So yeah, again. So then we have Roansy Contreras, 55 fastball, 55 slider, 55 changeup, 50 command. So again, another back end of the rotation arm. So, and who knows, maybe, I don't know. So then we have Oswaldo Cabrera, a second baseman, 21 years old, 55 hit, 45 raw, 40 game, 50 speed. So again, maybe, who knows? I don't know. Then we have Alexander Vizcaino. I mean, these are all 40+ players, so they could easily, a handful of these could easily turn into 45 future value players by mid-season, which would, totally change the system, because then instead of having 12 45 players, they could have like 18 45 players. So then we have Yoendris Gomez, right-handed pitcher, 60 fastball, 55 curveball, 50 changeup, 55 command, 6'3", throws 93 to 96, tops at 98. Number 19, Mike Hall Escoto, another 45 plus second baseman, 45 hit, 60 raw, 55 game, and currently he has a 50 speed, but a future 40 speed. So he's 5'11", 180, and he's not 18 yet, so I guess maybe they think he'll fill out and lose a bunch of speed. But still, if he, 45 hit and plus power, or not plus, but plus power, above average to plus power, he could become something, most likely trade bait. But again, these are all 40 plus. So then we have Everson Pereira, center fielder. He's going to be 19 in a couple of months. 6 feet, 190. 50 hit, 50 raw, 50 game, 55 speed. So again, he does nothing great, but solid across the board. So he could, there are a lot of options with him. Then we have Kanan Smith. So it's going to be 21 mid-season, 45 hit, 60 raw, 55 game, 40 speed. He's a bigger player. He's 6 foot, 215 pounds. So might end up at like first base or something. You probably don't want him sticking around in the outfield. He's a big guy. Then we have number 22 is Antonio Gomez, a catcher. Doesn't seem like, but again, he has an 80 throwing arm. So if you're a catcher and you have an 80 throwing arm, that's basically an automatic ticket to the big leagues. If you can throw out guys and keep guys honest on the base paths, you've written your ticket as backup catcher. So I really don't, there's nothing really more to say about him than one way or the other, he's going to be in the majors. No, maybe if he increases his he could probably, even if he lives up to if he hits for average and he hits like 20 home runs a season, he could be a starter also, So then we have 23, we have Anthony Siegler, who was 2018's first round pick, who kind of has taken a step back, but again, like I said, could easily be a 45 at midseason. So he's got 55 hit, 45 raw, 35 game, 40 run, 55 fielding, 60 throw. So he probably projects to be a backup catcher, which is totally fine. You need guys like that. You need backup catchers who you can rely on. Like, one of the things that helped the Yankees out last year was the fact that Austin Romine was able to step in for Gary Sanchez and play really well when he was injured. So now on to the 40 future value prospects. We have Josh Smith, TJ Sikma. Josh Smith, second base. TJ Sikma, left-handed pitcher. Ociel Rodriguez, right-handed pitcher. Ryder Green, right field. Nick Nelson, righty. Brooks Kriske, righty. And actually, so the Yankees, so the Yankees actually they put Brooks Kriske on their 40-man roster to protect him from the Rule 5 draft. So they really like him as a possible reliever. He's got a 60 fastball and a 60 splitter and a 50 slider. So, and his command's not great, and he's already 26. So I fully expect he'll probably be one of those shuttle guys who, especially, and although, now that there's 26-man rosters, I don't know. And I think there are new rules about how long a guy has to stay down for. So that could change how teams shuttle pitchers. But so number 30, we have Glenn Otto, right-handed pitcher. 31, Josh Pro, catcher. Frank Herman, right-handed pitcher, 32. 33, we have Michael King, another guy who could be a back end of the rotation guy if they need. So the Yankees have a lot of depth, a lot of options that, if their rotation falls apart, which it already has started, but they're deep enough that they can make up for it. And I fully expect them to sign a couple of other guys. So we have Ryan Salinas, center fielder. 35, Anthony Garcia, right field. 36, Trevor Stephan, right-handed pitcher. Another guy who could be a reliever or could also be most likely a reliever, but then we have 37, Marcos Cabrera, third base. 38, Denny Larondo, right-handed pitcher. 39, Thairo Estrada. So that's the 40. So 39 players are graded as 40 future value or above. That's insane. So then we have, and Thairo Estrada is one of those guys who is thought to be like the future Yankees utility guy. He hasn't really panned out, but he also was shot last year, so that probably played into the reason why he wasn't very good last season. Then we have, so this is the 35 plus feature value. So we have Alan Mejia, center field, 18. Garrett Whitlock, right-handed pitcher, 23. Yoel Heldries Diaz, 18, right-handed pitcher. Roberto Chirinos, shortstop, 19. Randy Vasquez, right-handed pitcher, 21. Alfredo Garcia, left-handed pitcher, 20. Matt Sauer, 21, right-handed pitcher. Nicio Rodriguez, right-handed pitcher, 20. Madison Santos, center fielder, 20. Jake Agnos, left-handed pitcher, 21. Anderson Munoz, right-handed pitcher, 21. Dero Perez, shortstop, 18. Chris Giddens, first base, 52, 26. So this is a guy who I think could probably, if the Yankees need a third baseman, a first baseman, they'll call him up. He has 80 raw power, so it's insane. At this point, he is what he is. I think he'll probably, I don't know. Who knows? We don't know. But I think he'll probably be in AA or AAA, and he'll be the first one called up, probably, if they need a first baseman, which they might, because, I really think Miguel Andujar is going to be the first baseman for the Yankees, because they have Urshela, who came out of nowhere, sort of, and basically took a hold of that third base job last season when Andujar got injured. So then at 53, we have Ken Waldichuk, left-handed pitcher, 22. And Mr. Irrelevant, I guess. I don't know. But at 54, we have Nelson Alvarez, right-handed pitcher, 21. So that rounds out the 35 plus and above players on the Yankees, in the Yankees farm system. And that's insane. And this list doesn't stop there, though. So other prospects of note. So this is the part where they sort of list interesting guys. So we have And they break it down. It's broken down into sections. So realistic bench pieces: Hoijun Park, shortstop; Kyle Holder, shortstop; Josh Stowers, center fielder; Pablo Olivares, center fielder. So the Yankees actually acquired Stowers this year in the Sonny Gray deal. So it was basically like the Yankees traded Sonny Gray to the Reds for Shed Long, and then flipped Shed Long to the Mariners for Josh Stowers. So, he's sort of a guy who, I mean, you sort of were scratching your head when the Yankees flipped Shed Long for Josh Stowers, because Shed Long was rated as a better prospect. But, the Yankees have been good at identifying players, so who knows? So then guys with big arm strength, we have Josh Wilson, righty; Braden Bristow, righty; Elvis Figueroa, righty; Zach Green, righty; Wellington Diaz, righty. So, I guess, these are all guys to keep an eye out for. Pinstripe thumpers, the guys with power: Jose Martinez, first base; Isaiah Gilliam, left field; Dermis Garcia, first base; Jacob Sanford, left field. So again, I think, maybe if these guys can work on their contact, they can take that next leap. So a total mess of other guys are like, so basically, I guess guys that don't fit in anywhere. So next up, Inger Castellano, third base; Jesus Rodriguez, catcher; Miguel Marte, shortstop; Nick Paciorek, righty; Jose Chambuco, righty; Jonathan Munoz, righty; Carlos Narvaez, catcher. So Castellano was also signed in July in 2019. So actually it says, so Castellano actually did play in games. So I don't know. Maybe certain guys can. Who knows? Either way, it doesn't really matter. But so it says Rodriguez, 17, had strong DSL numbers in a meaningless 18 games. The carrying tools here are on defense, both the receiving and the arm. Marte has a plus arm, plus speed, and can stick at shortstop, but needs to grow into physicality to hit. So, who knows? These guys, I view this section as wild cards. I mean, I know Park and Dermis Garcia were part of that big spending in 2014, I believe. So I know those names. Like I said, I know who Stowers is because of the trade. But yeah. So, you know, listen, the Yankees continued to impress with their farm system, and I think it's only a matter of time before we see a couple of these guys in the major leagues. And a few of them could be at the major league level this season. You know, guys like Clark Schmidt, Davey Garcia. That's probably it. You probably won't see any of the uh, hitters in the big leagues this season because the Yankees are pretty set on offense, and they have like a couple of guys who can, you know, someone like Clint Frazier could fill in as a starter. So they don't really have much room. You know, maybe, who knows, anything can happen, but we'll see. And, but, you know, we could see someone like Michael King if there's an issue, if there are a bunch of injuries to the rotation. Maybe a guy like Alberto Abreu surprises and gets added to the bullpen. You know, I think there's a lot to be excited as a Yankee fan in terms of the farm system. So we'll see. So that's it, guys. If you if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're still here, and give me your thoughts below. What do you think? What do you think of these prospects? Is there anyone else in the Yankees farm system you're excited about? What about other teams in general? I mean, there are a couple of guys I'm really interested in seeing, mainly because they're on my fantasy team. So, but yeah, let me know. And other than that, I got nothing else. Other than go check out the unusefulidiots.com for all that I'm doing. Also check out my other channel, Unuseful Unboxing, where I unbox all kinds of things. I do taste tests and other stuff. So yeah, just check it out. All right, that's it. See ya.